Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
This is America's Outdoor Talk program.
Are you ready to get rowdy?
Outdoors This Week with your host, Alex Langer. Alex Langer. We've got fishing.
Believe me, folks, I have been there, and the fishing has been tremendous.
Hiking.
Adios. Have a nice trip.
Camping.
This is a real adventure.
How do you know?
When you're an experienced woodsman like me, you get a feel for these things.
Oh, really?
Heck, we've even got kayaking.
I'm going to show you kids the time of your life.
We've got all the info you need for a safe and fun day in the sun.
It's a darn good thing we found you when we did. There's something horrible roaming these woods.
And you've got Outdoors This Week. Outdoors This Week. And now, here's your host, Alex Langer.
Why, that would be me. It's me, isn't it, Lynn?
It is you.
Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Announcer, and also the lovely Lynn. Welcome, 1,000 welcomes. We have maybe the biggest star on the fishing scene with us today. He usually loves my build-up, so I'll give him a build-up. And it is, of course, none other than Don Meissner, star of stage, screen, television, and truck stops. I think he's appearing at truck stops or county fairs. I think truck stops and county fairs and stage, screen, and television. Let me tell you a little about Don. I have known Don for a quarter century. Lynn, how crazy is that?
That's crazy.
You know, I mean, when we started out, we were just two young bucks. One was selling lures, the other one was doing a TV show on PBS on fishing, and we ran into each other at the AFTA, American Fishing Tackle Manufacturers Association show, where I was wearing a tie. I was fresh out of the software business, and I was wearing a tie and demonstrating a lure. Why wouldn't you wear a tie, right?
That's true.
And Don came by and he said, "Looks like an interesting lure," and he put it away, and he didn't do anything with it until one day he couldn't do a show and he wasn't catching any fish. So he had to try something different, and that's what he did. He tried the flying lure, and bam, he started catching fish on it. And bam, he caught more fish on it. And then it became his favorite lure. It helped him save shows. I'm not kidding you, Lynn. So Don's going to be here with us today. And the usual suspect, we have Ron Lindner. And does that mean I got to get off?
That means you got to go.
And and also Lynn's three Southern gentlemen. I'll let you figure out who they are. All right, we'll be right back.
Hang tight. More of America's Outdoor Talk program, Outdoors This Week, after this.
Hi, folks. Ron Linder here for Fraybill Nets, one of the greatest nets for fishing ever made. I'm also here for Linder's Angling Edge Television and Linder's Angling Edge Facebook, which you can go pick us up where we got some of the fast-cracking news found any place on our Facebook. So it's Linder's Angling Edge Facebook or Ron Linder Facebook. Try any one of those. We're really hanging around there having a lot of fun. Okay, a researcher finds that muskies have fingerprints. Let me explain. If you caught a muskie on the same spot a lot of times over the years, you get to think it's the same fish. What happens? A Canadian fishing researcher may have a way that you can tell for sure. Now get this. For the past few years, hatchery technologist Mark Newell in Lindsay, Ontario, has raised no less than 5,000 muskie to fingerling size. That's pretty good size. As part of the Lake Simcoe Muskie Restoration project. While monitoring the fish, Newell observed that each muskie had its own unique coloration pattern. In other words, thousands of them looking at them this way, this way, this way. Not all are the same. Specifically, the bars and markings on the anal, dorsal, and caudal fin are distinctive. In other words, they're all different, something like fingerprints. Newell wants to find out if the digital photographs and image recognition software could identify a specific fish. So he started putting these things in a file, and when you go to Las Vegas and they look for criminals, as you walk through the door, they got this ID. It looks at your eyes and your face, and they can tell if you're a casino chief. And they've got ways of doing this, facial recognition. Well, he's using the same techniques that they use this way, by looking at muskie, scanning the sides of them, can tell if it's the same fish out of thousands of them, because they have distinct markings, much like fingerprints, or in the case of facial recognition, the distance between your eyes, your cheeks, even, they can even tell if people wearing beards and stuff like that with the facial recognition techniques. And this Newell thinks that you can do the same. He wants to check. The idea came to Newell several years ago when he was working on an aquaculture operation raising tilapia. The owner was interested in finding ways to identify his brood stock to avoid inbreeding during subsequent egg harvest. In other words, when they come in, they a lot of times these operators that raise fish, they start inbreeding. They get too many of the same genetic line, and they actually, the fish start shrinking, or it puts a, much like human beings, you start getting problems after too much inbreeding. So in order to make sure that they were from separate, far-off families, they started checking them this way. And the owner was interested in finding out a way to identify the brood stock. Newell noticed that the tails all had distinctive patterns and wonders if they could read like guess what, a fingerprint. The technology actually existed back then, but it was kind of expensive. Today, fast forward to the present in this article, it's where even a casual observer of CSI Miami or Bones knows that affordable computer software is now capable of recognizing matching patterns of digital images. Studies involving animals as diverse as zebras and penguins use image recognition identification. But this is the first time, to our knowledge anywhere, of anybody doing this with fish. So here's the new deal. You can fingerprint fish. I have caught fish, coincidentally, that I thought were caught them at the same time. I'd be a rock off a certain long point, and you'd catch them and you'd throw them back. There's a lot of catch and release. And they had some distinctive markings on it. Big fish, usually. And you'd go there a year later, and boom, you'd catch another. Boy, it sure looks like the last one, And so there's going to be a way now to scan this stuff and figure out if you're catching the same fish over and over again. That's going to make catch and release really interesting. So that's it for Ron for this edition of Linder's Angling Edge. Over and out.
Crappie colors coming up on Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Would you like to spend less time on the couch and more time in the fresh air? Would you like your kids to stare at a bobber instead of the TV? Would you gladly trade in your microwave for a Dutch oven? Then you belong at Bass Pro Shops. Every week, we offer free skills workshops to help you get started. See the store or go to BassPro.com for more information. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
Lure color is a large part of the crappie game. At a given time, only one color will catch fish. Another time, several colors will work equally well. Unfortunately, there are no precise rules to follow. Some anglers start by matching the tint of the water, for instance, lime or metallic green in greenish water, motor oil or yellow on coppery lakes, white or blue when the waters are clear. Other experts rely on the logic of contrast, like bright colors in dark water and dark colors in light water. All carry a wide array of colors and experiment until the fish indicate what they prefer. Moreover, crappies may hit a particular color for a time, then shut off of it. You think the fish have stopped biting or moved. Now, before pulling anchor, though, try switching colors. Many times that's all it takes. The fish are still down there and can still be provoked into striking, but only on a different color, often something substantially unlike the color that worked well only a few minutes before. Until next time, I'm Larry Whiteley, and this is Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Thanks, Larry, and I appreciate that report, and you are happily married, and you have grandchildren. Lynn, take note.
You always have to rub that in, don't you?
I do. My next guest, Don Meissner, and I have been through the thick of things. He and I slogged through the flying lure years. We slogged through his show on PBS, Rod and Reel Streamside. And today, I've never seen Don busier than he is right now in his entire life. Don, first of all, you give me hope. What are you doing?
Oh, my gosh, Alex. By the way, it's always great to be back with you because you always are able to make me smile. No matter how tough things get, you have that way. And so we have been through a lot together, Alex, through the years. But to get to the point, you say that I've never been busier, and I got to tell you, I never have been. But it's a real challenge and a real gift to have some of the opportunities that are before us right now, and that's really what I'm doing. I have a new TV show called Fishing Behind the Lines that it's inspirational to me, and I hope it's going to be inspirational to people out there because it's going to be a soldier's story. I'm taking soldiers fishing that are just returning from Afghanistan that have been through things that we can't even imagine. And by getting them out on the water, I'm hoping it'll be a gift to them to just relax, but also to give them a chance to tell the story of what it's like to be a soldier defending our country.
Unlike other wars, I was just talking about this to somebody. In World War II, you didn't have so many people coming back without limbs. You either lived or you died in the 1940s, and that was about it. But, technology has given us a lot more maimed people.
Well, you're right, Alex, and I hadn't really thought of it in that sense. I was talking to some people yesterday about this other program that I'm working on to even enhance and bring all our generations together through fishing, because we built so many walls in this country that didn't exist generations ago.
You're right.
Between people, between races, between everything. And fishing is almost that common denominator. It's a way to get people together. It's a way where they don't feel pressure. They don't feel that peer identification and judgment. And it's just universal.
What do you got up your sleeve to bring together all races, all ages, all faiths?
Aren't I bold, Alex? Don't I always reach for the moon? And this is really reaching for the moon and the stars. But I will tell you, in the months to come, as we talk more on the radio, I'll have more to tell you about this. But it involves bringing kids and soldiers and the old veterans all together and volunteers, all the fishermen. There's so many people in this country, the old grizzled fishermen that got their ways and their special techniques. But if you give people a chance to share with each other, a chance to pass on their wisdom like was done so many generations ago, I really feel strongly that there's some wonderful opportunities to make us all a bit happier and a bit more one together.
Yeah.
But, I'm waxing philosophical right now.
I'm verklempt. You've choked me up, Don. I don't know if that's the Aaron here today or if it's you. I'm not sure what it is, but...
Well, it's not me, but I'll tell you what it is, Alex.
It's you, Don. Don't be so modest.
Oh, no. But Alex, guess what? Today, or not today, tomorrow morning, well, sometime anyway, I'm going to be out there enjoying the beginning of really, in upstate New York where I live, you talk about the first days of summer right around the corner. This is how we celebrate it. We start all our fishing going.
That's right.
And so it's the beginning of muskie and bass and all those neat fish.
You think there's a shred of evidence that it pays to start your season later?
Well, I'll tell you what. The biologists in Ontario feel very strongly that way, and we up in upstate New York share those waters. We share the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes, and we tend to share our philosophies together, so our waters coincide no matter which side of the border you're on.
You'll have a chance to talk about those Canadian scientists when we come back from the break. Would you stay with us, Don? Please.
You betcha,
Please
Alex.
stay with us. We'll be right back, folks. Don't go away.
Well, I got me a bass boat.
Coast to coast, this is Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer.
Wow! Woo. Hold on to that, and that's a good one since 1984. Tight Lines with Sammy Lee.
He's won over $1 million in 10 short years using a technique that he perfected on the West Coast. And now he's winning bass tournaments back east with his same method. Hello, this is Sammy Lee. In just a moment, 2005 BASS Angler of the Year, Aaron Martins, will begin telling us about the drop shot method to take bass. But first, this message.
Your best tool for catching big fish isn't even in your tackle box. It's FishMate Pro, the app that loads your smartphone up with everything you need to catch the big ones. You get the best feeding times in the moon phase, plus all your current weather conditions, including barometric pressure and color weather radar. And when you catch a trophy, take a picture on the phone, and FishMate Pro interfaces with Facebook and Twitter. Plus, you get recipes, fishing news, and podcasts updated every weekday right in the palm of your hand. Bring more fun to your fishing with the FishMate Pro app. Find out all you need to know at fishmadeapp.com.
For Aaron Martins, growing up fishing bass tournaments on the West Coast provided many obstacles, the least of which was figuring out how to catch bass out of deep, clear water lakes with water depths of more than 100 feet. But learning and perfecting a technique called drop shotting has enabled Aaron to take home over $1 million during the past 10 years. So what is drop shotting? I've asked Aaron to explain.
Drop shotting, the same as it's just like Carolina rigging or split shot. It's another form of fishing a worm. I've heard of guys also using jigs on them now too. I haven't heard much about the guys that actually made jigs that float and they're drop shotting them. So I mean, the guys are already starting to mess around with it back in the East Coast. Fishing the West Coast, I fish just about 100% worms. I fish like a lot of robo worms, some zoom stuff. But for the most part, robo, like 4.5-inch straight tails, and the little worm they make called a body shed. And also reapers are really good on it too. And it's a really versatile rig. You can vary the leader length depending on how clear your water is. You can vary the line size for the presentation. I've spent years and years just perfecting it. I've kind of figured out what certain water clarity, what size leader I need. Catch a few fish, I kind of get an idea how they want it. If they want it shook and fast, or drug, or dead stick, which is one of my little secrets I do a lot. It really depends. You gotta just go out there and practice it and catch a few fish on it.
I'll be back with more Tight Lines after this message. Aaron Martins will continue talking about drop shotting next time, so I hope you'll join us. I'm Sammy Lee, and until next time, Tight Lines.
Tight Lines, brought to you by UFP, America's leading maker of brake systems for boat trailers. FishMate, the ultimate fishing app for your smartphone. And by U.S. farm-raised catfish, the healthiest fish from pond to plate.
Follow Tight Lines on Twitter at www.twitter.com/TightLinesRadio.
From pond to plate. Sounds delicious, doesn't it, Lynn?
That sounds so good.
Get something from the pond and just
throw it on the plate.
Throw it on the plate. We have with us a guy that I've known. Has it been a quarter of a century?
Oh, yeah. I think it has been a quarter of a century, because when did the original flying lure, when we first brought it out, what year was that, Alex?
That was 1988.
Okay, and we knew each other before we brought it out, because we went through the whole struggle of how do you get people to see this incredible thing that you've invented, if people don't know about it, doesn't matter if it's the greatest thing in the world.
We first met in 1988 at the AFTMA show, as it was then called, in Las Vegas. I still have pictures of that. It was my friend Paul Martinez and I in suits and ties demoing this bait in a fish tank. So that's how long that goes back. So that was a good 4 or 5 years before it came out on TV. So
I know, it's been an amazing journey. It's been amazing how quickly the years pass.
I know.
But also the whole story, the journey of taking something that you designed probably in your garage or in your bathroom or wherever you did.
In my parents' basement, Don. I designed it in a basement and went from there to TV around the world. And it's one of those stories that you couldn't make up if you wanted to.
The funny thing is listening to you and me talk in whatever languages that was dubbed in to be shown all over the world. My goodness, I didn't know I was so fluent.
Obviously you were, and I'm glad to have made you known all over the world.
Well, you not only made me known, but you really enhanced my fishing knowledge by giving me a tool that was that great. All kidding aside, that really did help me to do shows that I probably wouldn't have been able to do without having that lure. That lure was that amazing, I should say, is that amazing, because I've recently had experiences that brought back all those memories where I was using the flying lure, and people were looking at me and they were saying, what in the world do you have on there? We had 4 different people fishing, and I was the only one getting fish.
You had some dignitaries up visiting you, and you were bagging fish after fish, right?
I was dazzling everybody. They thought it was me. They didn't realize it wasn't me.
It was you.
Our old friend.
Don't be so modest, Don. It was you, and you had some help from an old friend. What happened then? You actually went out and you bought all the flying lures that you sold them originally like 25 years ago?
Isn't that? Do you remember that story, Alex? It was so funny. Actually, it was my buddy Dave who had gone to the store to get something, and he saw these flying lures that the guy had forgot that he had in the corner, and he said to him, how much to buy all those? Because Dave knew. Dave knew exactly. He'd seen the stories and watched the video that had been done through the years.
Yeah.
And that's how we got those flying lures. And we were with some other, like you say, dignitaries, and we were going out fishing to our favorite place. And I said to Dave, now I'm going to show you just how deadly these are. And I took them out of the package, and, and that's the rest of the story.
You went and got those flying lures that you were originally sold about 25 years ago to the store out of the back of your car, right?
That's exactly true. I remember when you and I used to go and show people how they worked in an ice chest. We'd fill ice chests with water, and we went through Vermont, and we'd say to the different places, look at this, you aren't going to believe this. And didn't that flying from one side of that ice chest to the other?
When they saw it work, they say, my gosh, I think that could work.
Oh, my goodness, Alex, a quarter of a century.
I recently found some original VHS tapes of my dad and I. My dad, as you know, Don, passed away a few years ago, and I pulled out those old videotapes where he was the cameraman, and he was barking instructions at me in Russian, if you can believe that. He's saying, let me see your face.
Well, the funny thing is, what people don't know about you is that, I was joking about me being fluent in these other languages, but Alex, you actually are. When I used to come and visit, I'd be sitting there and I'd hear all this Russian back and forth, and I'm like, what are you guys saying?
You didn't know that we were talking about you, did you, Don?
No, but I kind of got a feeling because I was watching the eyebrows going up and down, and I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, I'm the brunt of this one.
Remember, my mother fed you. Just before we went out to dinner, she piled a lot of stuff in front of you. It looked like you had a mountain of food in front of you. Then you weren't hungry anymore when we went out to dinner.
You're right, but I had to please your mother. It meant so much to her, and the food was good, even though there was a mountain of it.
She sabotaged your appetite.
Oh, golly, Alex.
I'll never forgive her for that.
No, but I will. I certainly did. Within an hour, she was forgiven.
That's all right.
Alex, I got something special that I wanted to tell you. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but we were fishing, and we were fishing, and we were shooting some video for this other project that I'm working on up here called Fish Cap, and we were showing some of the incredible fishing in the Racket River.
Right.
And we were catching these smallmouth bass, and the kid with me said, how come they have those great big black spots on the side of their body?
Yeah.
And these spots are the size of quarters.
Right.
And I said, well, I think it's stress this time of the year. They're spawning and so forth. But then my friend saw an article, and maybe I should have known this, but what happens is nature makes these bass grow these great big black spots on their sides so that when they're on the spawning beds, the panfish or whoever's looking at them wanting to rush up there and get those eggs see those spots, and they think it's their eyes. They think the bass is actually looking at them. And that's nature's way of protecting them during the spawn. And I found that fascinating. I thought, boy, all along I've been telling it was stress. Maybe it is stressful. It probably is a very stressful time for them to spawn. Found that very interesting, like the spots on a redfish.
This is probably unrelated. I saw an article on the Susquehanna River, and those bass have cancers on their melanomas growing on their bodies, which are also black spots. So, I mean, it's either nature's way of painting an eye on a fish or it's cancer, It's one of the two.
Well, that's not a good thought, and I'm hoping, because these disappear later in the year, you can catch those same bass. And how do I know they're the same bass?
I got to stop you because we got to take a break. And folks, we'll be right back after this with Don Meissner. And before Don, we have Wade Bourne, another one of Lynn's Southern gentlemen. And Wade is also happily married, Lynn.
Oh, come on. I can't catch a break.
Don isn't happily married.
Oh, yay. I'm going north.
All right.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Don't change that dial. Alex will be right back with more of Outdoors This Week after these messages.
Looking for a good lake to take a bass fishing trip? Want a place that's red hot where you can catch a mix of largemouth and smallmouth? Then hitch up your boat and head to Pickwick Lake on the Tennessee River, where this state, Mississippi, and Alabama all come together. Pro angler Tim Horton says right now Pickwick is one of the best lakes in the country. I'm Wade Bourne, and this is Wired to Fish Radio. In a minute, a good place to go for some bass fishing fun.
More Wired to Fish Radio coming up.
Imagine yourself at the wheel of your boat. You look up and suddenly see another boat headed straight for you on a collision course. Only a few seconds remain to make the right decision. What do? On average, a sportsman dies in a boating accident every other day. Too many sportsmen don't know the basics of boating safety and pay with their lives. I'm Wade Bourne. Do what I did. Take a safe boating course from your U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, Power Squadron, or state boating agency.
Boat responsibly. For more information, visit uscgboating.org.
For a day at the range, it's hard to beat an accurate pistol and lots of .22 long rifle ammunition. Folks at Smith & Wesson couldn't agree more. And the new M&P 22 pistol fits the bill perfectly. The M&P 22 combines the look, feel, and familiar operating features of the trusted M&P series of centerfire pistols. The M&P 22 is perfect for training or simple shooting enjoyment. To learn more about this new M&P rimfire pistol, visit www.smith-wesson.com.
This is Wired to Fish Radio.
Pro angler Tim Horton lives in North Alabama, and he travels full-time fishing in tournaments and sampling the best bass lakes in the country. So what's his favorite lake? Tim says it's right in his own backyard.
Probably my absolute favorite place in the country would be Pickwick Lake. You know, it's a lake that's really on fire right now. You can just sit and catch fish after fish, and it's probably the best I've seen it since I've been fishing it.
Tim Horton continued that besides good numbers, Pickwick Lake offers a great mix of smallmouth and largemouth bass and some big ones in both species.
We had tournaments back this spring where guys had 5 that would weigh 31, 32 pounds, and those are big stringers of smallmouth. But probably about 7 or 8 years ago, hydrilla started getting in the lake, and it has really made the largemouth fishing phenomenal without hurting the smallmouth fishing. So you can get below those dams and just catch those huge stringers of smallmouth, get down the lake on those river ledges on the outside edges of those grass beds, and really catch some big largemouth. So it's really created a diverse fishery that's a lot of fun to fish.
So again, this is Pickwick Lake, a part of the Tennessee River chain of lakes in southern Tennessee. If you'd like to learn more about fishing at Pickwick, contact the Tennessee Department of Tourism or visit their website at www.tnvacation.com. And that's today's Wired to Fish Radio. I'm Wade Bourne saying thanks for listening. Get outside.
No, you crazy guy. You get outside. Don't tell me to get outside. We have a fishing legend with us today, a man by the name of Don Meissner. If you've never heard of Don, then shame on you. Look it up on Google, and what are they going to find if they Google you, Don?
Oh my goodness, heaven only knows. There's the thing today is everything is there. They'll probably see videos that we've shot of different fishing. They can even go back and link to our TV station and some of the shows have been shot through the years. I mean, there's everything there. Stories that I've written.
There's a cornucopia of Don Meissner on the net. Don, where can they see your new TV show? First of all, what's your new TV show called?
It's called Fishing Behind the Lines.
Okay.
And it hasn't been released till about 2 more months. We're still filming, and I say filming, of course, today you don't use film, but we're still shooting some of the shows and putting them together. And, boy, I got to tell you, Alex, I got to share one little thing. The last show that I did was with an Army Ranger. He'd had 8 deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. 28 years old, grew up in Texas, and I mean, here's a guy that spends every day of his life really using every bit of wits and every bit of strength and training that he has to stay alive. And when we did our show, I saw the little boy in this guy come out. He would catch a fish, and they weren't really big fish. They were even panfish that we caught, and the bass, and he would hold them in his hand, and he would so lovingly stroke the side of them just to feel the texture and to look at the colors, and then he would so carefully put them back in the water. And he says to me, Don, he says, I wanted to kiss those fish. And it's not like he had watched TV shows and seen that. He had a pretty tough upbringing. That sort of led him in the direction that he went. But I guess what I'm saying is, you know, these people that are doing this, underneath it all, they're still, part of them is kids, just like all of us. You know, they have that childish wonder and that that just childish excitement to be alive and to share in the outdoors. And Alex, it affected me. It really touched me to see this one of our toughest people just revert to being a smiling boy again and experience something that maybe he didn't have a chance to experience as a kid.
Right.
So, yeah, that's my show, Fishing Behind the Lines. I'm really, I'll tell you, I feel so fortunate to have this opportunity because this show isn't about me. It's about what fishing can bring to these soldiers and what they bring to our lives. So hopefully it's going to be something that everybody will not only enjoy watching, because we're going to make it as fun as we can, but also really appreciate something that they may have taken for granted.
Many of these soldiers are hurt. Does this guy have any disabilities in any way?
He didn't, but some of the other soldiers I've had, that I've been fishing with, I didn't even know it. And then they tell me, oh, yeah, I was shot twice. Oh, yeah, I have the Purple Heart and this Medal of Courage and so forth.
Right.
And so many of them, Alex, their wounds are undetected. A lot of their wounds are emotional and psychological because what they carry with them, they'll carry with them forever.
Right.
And so, fortunately, in today's age, and we sort of joked about the fact that technology is giving these people a chance to go forward, maybe a little bit less than they once were, that people in World War II didn't have. But the one fortunate thing that I think that they do have today is we as a nation are so much more aware and so much more appreciative, and we're reaching out to try to do something in return to make these guys guys and girls as they return home, to give them something back that they can take forward with them through the rest of their life. And this didn't happen in generations before.
No.
So at least they have a support organization of people out there that are going to try to help them.
We got to close here in a few minutes, so tell me again, this show is not on the air yet, but when it does go on the air, where do you expect it to be, or do you know?
The show is going to be distributed by the top PBS distribution system, and hopefully, I say hopefully because it's up to the programmers, it's up to the people in different parts of the country, it will be available on all of your PBS stations around the country where you can see this, and it's called Fishing Behind the Lines. And it should be out within the next few months. By fall, it should be released to the national PBS network.
All right. So I would encourage you to request to call your PBS station because they're always asking for donations and say, hey, put on that show, Fishing Behind the Lines.
Absolutely, Alex. And we'll talk more in the future about it. All kinds of exciting things coming up this year. Fishing experiences that I'm always thrilled to be able to share with any of your listeners.
If people want to see your website, what is it called, please?
It's called Fishing with Don Meissner, and that's all they got to type in, Fishing with Don Meissner. You can see some of our experiences there. Also go to www.fishcap.net, and there's all kinds of new videos up there because I'm sort of the coordinator of this really progressive project to let people know about the great fishing and outdoor experiences in this region of upstate New York that a lot of people don't realize is just a vast wonderland of lakes and streams and fish.
All right, Dawn, on that note, Lynn is playing the music, which is her way of saying get off right now, Alex. So, Dawn, we'll say goodbye to you, and we'll talk to you again in the future, all right?
Thanks, Alex, and goodbye to everyone.
Thanks, Dawn.
Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer.